With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
I'm feeling fine, 'cause in time I'll be out tonight. I'm starting now, making sure I look fine tonight. Call Renee and Boo, gotta meet them soon. Tell T to call Sean, I'll be there at 1 when we show up. All the guys at the club wanna get our backs. We look good in black.
We go deep and we don't get no sleep, 'cause we be up all night until the early light. We go deep and we don't get no sleep. Whoa-ha, 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 whoa-ha.
Whoa ha ha, whoa ha ha, whoa ha, whoa ha. Whoa ha ha, whoa. We know you hate all the whoa ha's.
Whoa-has, don't care, fuck you.
Whoa ha ha, whoa ha, whoa ha. Hey everybody, welcome back to the blackest show about nothing. It's Jade and XD. I am one of your hosts, recently canceled Xavier Delow, and I am here with...
So I've heard. I don't have no tweeter no more. But
Smart.
You're
ahead of the curve. You are Afrofuturism.
Oh yeah, I've been hello, aunties in tech. I'm a prophetess, which is very fitting for our conversation today. And I just don't want no parts of that hellscape. And I heard that a picture that you use quite often for many different reasons got your black ass in trouble.
Yeah, I've been getting heat all week. I told you I turned heel, so now I'm evil on the internet. So after that, the Usher fans, I called them aunties. They're like, no, we're the Usher board, and I got an onslaught.
Wait, hold on. The Usher board.
Here's what happened. Yes. So again, corny nigga behavior. We'll address that at some point. But so, I was saying how all the fandoms, like the Swifties, the Beehive, they all need to come together and vanquish Ticketmaster, because that is the true enemy.
Yeah, I agree.
But I put, like the ponytails for Ariana, the ponies, I forgot we're called the hotties as Stallion fans. And then I said the aunties.
Oh, they are the
because,
hotties.
as I'm not a hottie because I am like 40, but but like, you know what I mean? But I referred to Usher fans as aunties, and they told me that they refer to themselves as the Usher board. And my response was, well, who consists of the Usher board? Your mama, who's an auntie.
I was like, refer to yourself as this
auntie.
Dick. Like,
yeah.
like, bitch, you're 44 years old.
like, I forget people like to tussle over the word auntie.
They do, and it's so stupid to me, especially because I am one in spirit and in truth.
There's nothing wrong. Like, did y'all not have good aunties growing up in your lives? Because I aspire to be just like my auntie.
They might not.
Rest her soul. Like, amazing.
They might have had terrible examples of aunties. Something about it is triggering. I started rewatching Broad City again because I hadn't watched it in so long. And I heard that I forgot And I was reading that they had a birthright trip episode. It was 2 episodes. It was like their
Mm.
season finale of season 3, and then the episode right before that. And it was Abby and Alana be on the right side of things. I'm gonna give them that. And so it was
Mhm.
actually quite a funny episode. It was poking fun at such a ridiculous notion. And I'll say it. I don't give a fuck. Like
Oh,
there's
fine.
like what?
I'm heel now. I'm a villain. Yeehaw.
Okay, welcome, cause I've been here. I got a folding chair for you.
Hey.
But they be on the right side of things, and they were poking fun at that ridiculous notion of a trip.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
And all things in between. So I started rewatching that, but there was a reason I told you that. What did you just say? Oh, yes. So as I'm rewatching Broad City, there's an episode where Alana's getting her tooth fixed and Abby's in the waiting room, and Alana's getting her tooth fixed at a child's dentist office. So the lady asked her, she
Yes.
was like, how many children do you have? And mama smoked some bad weed and like lost her shit. And then everywhere she goes, she's like, I don't have any kids. That's how y'all act. Talking about you don't, like, all you have to do is say I don't have none, or I'm not, or you could just not say anything, because bitch, if you're 4 years old, you are of auntie status at this point. If you're 35 years old, you're probably auntie status at this point in some way, of shape, form, or fashion. So get over yourself.
Yeah. Folks get real touchy and sensitive, anything related to age.
They
And
get so
I'm
and
here to
people
tell
get so
you.
triggered by a nigga typing to them with their fingers on the internet.
And this is why I tell people all the time, niggas tweet from the toilet. So therefore you should not feel no type of way about
Hello.
anything.
I told you all, it's the most vulnerable position there is to be.
Which, by the way, and I know that's gonna come up in this story, because did they kill that nigga while he was shitting?
Wait, which one?
Dan.
No, I think he was taking a piss. Well, they said he went to the woods to relieve himself. So maybe he might have been doing another one.
That's why he left his gun.
Because I was like, why would you leave? Why would you leave it just to go use the bathroom?
Listen, just in case shit got too hot. You know what I mean?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can hear, we are going to be discussing Daughters of the Cult today. It's going to be a long episode, so feel free to get your snacks and your libations and your vittles and your foodstuffs, and because we're going to be we're talking cult shit today.
Yeah, so let's get all the standard stuff out the way.
Mhm.
How was your week? I hear you had a nor'easter.
Ugh, which interrupted my travel. I'm very irritated. I was supposed to go surprise my parents for their anniversary, me and Noah.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, to deal with my flight actually technically was not canceled, but when I heard nor'easter,
Outside is canceled.
I knew, and I said, and we know that could go either way. It could be a really bad one. It could be a pretty mild one. But I said, you know who doesn't act mild when this shit happens? Niggas in the airport. And I just don't have the bandwidth to tussle with nobody in the airport. And it's just me and Noah. and then they're gonna put her in child protective services. Like, I'm not in the spirit right now to be
You
dealing
see
with
what I
people
mean?
who don't know how to conduct themselves. So
Because you're gonna have to threaten them and be like, "I'm gonna make this uncomfortable
let
for
me tell
everybody."
you something. You said you're welcome to the. I am in my villain era. Okay,
yeah.
I am in the era. I'm not gonna go out of my way to cuss you out, but if you come at me stupid, we're just gonna get crazy. So I said,
Yeah.
in order to avoid that, because that's not really what I want. I said, Noah and I won't be traveling on this nor'easter. We will get our, and then they were offering, the cancellation and change fees and all that. They were offering like a waive on that. So I said, we're just gonna take advantage and we'll plan a longer, because it was a 24-hour turnaround trip. I said, we'll
Oh
plan
yeah, and
something
that's not
longer
enough
later.
for her to see her nana.
No, because Mama was spawning nukes when she realized we were staying for 24 hours. Well, why can't we stay longer? And I was like,
Girl, you have school.
hello. I was like, if you ask me again,
Yeah.
I'm gonna flip the airplane over. Don't ask me no
Yeah.
more. I tried
That's
my
valid.
best.
Yeah. No, that's real. But having a longer, it works out in the end, right? You don't have to worry about, making Tristan a single parent,
Right. The stress of the
And-
donkeys.
yeah. And then Noah will have more time to see, her fam and her cousins and all that good stuff. So
How was your week?
I told you part of it. We're in season 3 of XD Eats Humble Pie, aka Crow, available exclusively on Netflix.
This nigga called me like he had the largest news in the world, and I thought something was very amiss. And then
Yeah, I signed up for TSA pre-check, and I was crying and throwing up about it.
He was, and I gloated in the phone. It was all the I told you so's. It was.
Here's the thing, right? So upon coming back from the trip, also shout out to the listener who said I was silly about being in the thing and threatened me. It was like, if you were in my store, that wouldn't have happened. Okay, there's a lot of stuff I got to address here, because in the club, we all fam.
I don't know
right?
about that anymore. I don't know. Honestly,
I just, there's people on the Patreon saying we don't post new content every week, which is categorically false.
Hold on, pause. Can you just pause? Hold on.
We got to clear some shit up.
There's no fucking way. As much, my own family and friends will text me and be like, "Are you recording?" Because like every time we call you. We have been doing Anne of Green Gables. We stopped it for February so we could do B and Bobby Brown. There's pre-shows, there's post-shows, there was an additional hour-long episode.
And sometimes we don't do pre-shows because we have other stuff to do, and
there
the
are
pre-show could be in
multiple
the
videos
thing.
a week. What is the? You know what? You can't make sense out of nonsense. You can't. Yeah, you just fucking can't.
That's a word.
Because that's just a lie. That's just a lie. It's not true. And I would much rather you just say, the Patreon's not for me. There's people who'll be like, I come here for love after lockup content, so I'll be back when Love After Lockup starts up. Cool.
There's
people who'll be like,
the
cost of living is too fucking high. I'll be back when I got the 5. Cool. But don't tell lies and project whatever the fuck you have going on. Like, don't do that.
Don't be signifying. That's what my mama used to say. Don't be signifying.
And if it was constructive criticism, cool. I scream too loud in the microphone. I'm a loud nigga, but I'll work on it. I'll try to laugh to the side. That's constructive. But as far as your lies, fuck your lies. Fuck your lies. They're lies.
Yeah. But I do want to turn this around, though, and read a wonderful email that we got today. Sorry.
No, because we have
and of course
people.
It's part poking fun, but also friends.
No, I'm dead ass. I don't know what XD's doing. I'm dead fucking ass. Like, keep your fucking lies to yourself.
Yeah, like let's get real. And I feel like just in general, people are just getting angry
Yeah,
and whatever, and taking it out on
and
whatever vehicle they
understandably
can.
so. But channel that shit
Hmm.
to where it needs to motherfucking go. Okay?
Yeah,
Channel it to
yeah,
where it needs to go.
yeah. But shout out to this email I'm gonna read. I'm not gonna read their name.
Okay.
So because they go, hey y'all, my name is not important. And I do want to say the
It is
subject is
important.
yeah, your name is important, but I guess for anonymity's sake, it's cool. But shout out to you from emailing us from Brazil.
Oh wow.
Yes, obrigado. Hey,
Yes,
come to Brazil.
Tishina Arnold.
Yes. Hey y'all, my name is not important. I just want to say I just wanted to thank you both for the Blackish show about nothing. I've been listening for about a year and always laughed out loud and even had to explain a few things to my toddler when I listen without headphones.
Oh no.
Ooh, that's parenting. Last week, my father passed away, and I feel like the world caved in on me. I'm currently 7 months pregnant and quietly grieving the loss of my dad. The doctors have told me whatever I feel, the baby feels as well. And grieving during pregnancy can cause ADHD or other mental health disorders. I'll be getting a second opinion on that soon. But your show has really helped me get through this tough time. I love this distraction and I appreciate you both. I just want to uplift you. You know, my heart goes out to you. Both of ours goes out to you.
Yes.
Sorry that you're dealing with the loss of a loved one and having to do all this while carrying a child. You know, is
That's a
rough.
lot.
But I hope you get all the love, and we're
Yes.
sending all the love that we can to you.
Mhm.
And shout out to doing all this while still raising a toddler too.
Hello.
You know.
Pregnant with a toddler, the real MVP. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I echo XD. We send a lot of love, and we're really grateful when you all
Yeah.
take the time to just send love this way.
Yeah.
It's received, and we have it right
Yeah.
back for you, unless you're telling lies, which you
Yeah.
didn't, Brazil. So,
Yeah.
but we love you. We love you a lot,
Yeah.
and we're praying for you, and we hope that.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You know, you're able to process your loss the way that you need to. I know that's a lot with having a toddler and being pregnant, but I pray your peace, and you always have a place in this community.
Yeah. Wow. But what else? If you're seeing the visuals, we as Hien and Han.
Hex Diaz on a cowboy hat.
I sure do.
I opened my FaceTime and I was like, this nigga.
We is having a wang dang doodle over here.
Yes.
Because we go ye and we go motherfucking haw. Okay. I'm here for this era.
You know what? We should have a Jade and XD. No, bad. Oh my God. Okay, wait. I was gonna say we should have a Jade and XD rodeo, but like we could revisit the thoughts on that.
Well, they used to have black rodeos here. I think I told you about
I've been
black
to one
rodeos.
before.
Yeah.
I've been to one in Louisiana. In Oklahoma, one of those.
Yes, they have them in Oklahoma. Because I've been to one in Oklahoma, and of course the ones in the Bay.
I don't like the animal aspect of those rodeos.
Stank like hell, but the food is great.
Yeah, that's why I was like, well, we can have a Jaden XD rodeo where we have turkey legs and niggas wear boots, and then maybe we do a deep dive into the history like we did before on why niggas have rodeos in schools, even if it's in like Michigan. And
and we can line dance.
We can line dance. I'll even learn
that stuff
that
we're good
fucking
at.
to me a line dance.
I saw this tweet. that said, "Don't be injected algebra into a new line
Because
dance like
that's
y'all did to
exactly
Mia."
I'm like, because where's the fucking why? I was like,
Yeah.
nigga, I think I could carry a rhythm. Like, I'm not saying I'm like Les Twins, but like, I'm like, this shit here is this is geometry. This is
It's hard. Like if I could learn that dance from Jungle's video with the break it back in 74, that shouldn't have been as easy as, or difficult as that. You know what I mean? Like listen, but I'm here for line dances. We can have a hoedown of sorts.
Yeah, let's have a Jaden XD hoedown. Fuck it. I even want to get one of those big parachutes that when you used to do in elementary, where everybody would lift the woo and then you go underneath.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the
that'd be a
kids do
good
that? I don't think
time.
the kids do that anymore.
I don't know. That's a good question. I also wonder, did you ever have to do that spinning thing in grade school where you would like you'd be in like a spaceship and like it spun around a bunch of times and you could like go upside down, like you'd be
like
posted
at the
against the wall.
carnivals and shit.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they used to do it not only but carnivals, but they used to also do that for like us at school to like teach a lesson in like physics or like early type of physics or gravity or whatever the fuck.
Those things used to freak me the fuck out. I'm not going.
Oh, I threw up every time.
No, ew. I see. This is see. I can't. My nerves can't handle that. I'm just talking about the fact. I'm like, I would try to lift my arm knowing I couldn't, and then I would freak out.
Yeah.
It's like this is
same,
not right.
but I also threw up. Yeah.
No. Why you gotta be? So why would you go on it again? Subject everybody in that spinning spaceship to do that?
I didn't throw up in the thing. I threw up out afterwards.
Oh, okay.
I don't like being dizzy. Like I don't. That's not a thing for me.
But you take your little ass into that fucking ride every time.
Sure did. Because nobody wants to be left out. Nobody likes to get picked last. We all watch Drag Race. So like, if you don't like keep up with like, peer pressure, you're gonna turn out to be. It's literally peer pressure. Maybe I'm the problem.
Yeah,
okay?
that's what it sounds like.
We
should have a Jaden XD field day.
I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Because of Broad City. I bike.
Oh, I
remember
I
that
wasn't even thinking
episode?
about that. I haven't gotten to that episode again yet.
I reach, I reach, I reach, I reach. I bike, I bike, I bike. Yeah. I fly, I shit.
Oh, that's the episode with Vanessa Williams.
Yes.
But like,
I shit, I shit,
I shit,
I shit,
I shit.
I shit.
And Whoopi Goldberg.
Is
yeah,
Whoopi
she
in
in
that
the episode too.
Yo, they had a lot of appearances on that show.
Yeah, because remember they do a whole sister act thing at the end of that episode.
Yes, you're absolutely
when
right.
Abby got fired.
You're absolutely
Or Alana
right.
got fired, excuse me. Yeah. Anywho, what else do I have to tell you before we pay bills? I told you I got pre-check.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was wild.
We'll be discussing Monique and the Sun stuff in the post whatever extra content show that is on the fucking Patreon, which will be a follow-up to the initial conversation we had last goddamn week.
Yeah. And someone commented, like, are we commenting Drag Race? We did a Drag Race video last week.
There was definitely one.
So I don't know, update your apps or go directly to the site, but it's all there. I don't know. Friends.
I don't know. I don't know either.
I don't know.
I don't
We are
know.
just, maybe we all need to collectively take a nap. I don't
think
know.
so.
But friends,
everybody
we're
follow
here,
the
we
Nat
do this for
ministry.
y'all.
We do.
Yes.
Like, it's not for us.
Yeah, we do this for y'all.
Ooh, we love y'all
man.
for real.
We do. So with that being said, I'll announce this here. So I was on a podcast this week,
Yes, you
Home
were.
League Wrestling. I'm talking about wrestling for 2 hours.
Wow.
I talk about yes, it's a good time. It's a black wrestling podcast,
I
which
love that.
you know, I wouldn't go on. The only white wrestling podcast I would ever go on would be Jim Cornette, but that's a dream.
Fair.
But other than that, I want more black people to talk about shit like wrestling. There's also Golfers in Therapy hosted by my friend Bradford, a black golfer, which is he's so interested in teaching black folks about golf because he was like, it's such a calming sport. It's also very difficult if you've ever tried it. It's a lot of arm work, but yeah. But anyway, I'm on there. Link is in the description. I'm also Agents of Chaos, members of the Cult of Chaos. I am fighting to get back in the Big Brother house.
Yes, you are.
I am. Big Brother All-Stars. I need to finish my story. I was unjustly voted out last time, but because of you all, I was the first America's favorite player. So please allow me to continue and finish my story and slay all these bitches in All-Stars.
Hello?
Because listen, let me have my Alaska. You know, let me be your Alaska. Let me be your Shea Coulee. You know?
That's real.
Let me be a part. So vote in the description box wherever you're listening. The link is there.
I tried to post it on my stories. I wanted to promote you so that you can
send it to you.
Get your just due. On February 22nd, I will be at the Historically Black Phrases game show hosted by Jarrett and Travell. It's going to be a good time. It's Kaylin Allen who's going to be there as an additional guest, as well as who else is going to be there? Who else is going to be there?
And amongst a bunch of famous niggas.
Kaylin and Michael Kilgore. So that's going to be a good time. So come out. There's tickets for purchase. The link is also in the description box. And yeah, I think that's it. I don't think I have.
Yeah. Oh, and one last thing. Pre-order Michael Arsenault's book. I finally bought Jordan. Yeah, we link is in the description box wherever you're listening. Our dear friend, third installment. Support black art.
Yes, and Michael's a phenomenal.
That's a writing ass writer.
Yeah. Not even because he's my friend. Michael is a phenomenal writer. Okay, charismatic, paints a picture, witty, funny, unapologetically black. Michael is a good time. And so his first book was I Can't Date Jesus. Second one was what was the second one again?
It's in my library in my living room.
Same. I Can't Date Jesus was my shit.
Yes.
What's my shit?
Either all the links for pre-order, the shows, and everything will be in the description box wherever you're listening. Also, in the description box wherever you're listening, there are little nuggets of things. They're back, so we can tell if you read or not. Shout out to those who did, because we got a bunch of Instagram suggestions about merch, which was helpful.
Very good.
So keep looking out, because there might be an announcement. I know a lot. Thank you all on Instagram showing love to us about I did like an anonymous thing, and we got so much love for Jane XD, but people keep asking about a live show and stuff, and I will say Jade and I have been working on stuff, and it will be presented in a way that is very different than what you're used to.
It's gonna be a good time.
It's going to be a wang dang motherfucking doodle. Patreon, YouTube, tell everybody, you know the vibes. Let's take a break and get to this cult shit.
Ooh.
Hit it, Claude.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Never in a million years would I have ever guessed that those gentle, loving girls could have ever carried out a hit on anyone. Not a single person I've ever talked to says, "Oh, I wanted to go and do this."
we're Black. We're talking about Daughters of the Cult. It is a 5-part docu-series on Hulu that was released this year. And it's a story that takes place between Mexico, Texas, and Colorado over the span of late 1960s through the early 90s.
I was 13 years old the day I escaped my father's cult. It was very frightening because I knew if somebody saw me, that was the end.
So the reason why it's 5 episodes because it's a lot of shit to cover.
Yes, but we're gonna do the best we can with it to make it palatable. So we know many of you have watched Daughters of the Cult because you have asked us if we've watched Daughters of the Cult, and so here we are, ready to discuss.
Yeah. So we open with Daughters of Errol LeBaron, who we'll talk about later. But
Evil with a hard R is what I call him.
Yeah, Evil with a hard R. We'll go with that. Anna LeBaron and Celia LeBaron. They're kind of the anchors of this story.
Yes.
And so what we realize is that there's a bunch of these white siblings just getting together for margaritas and spades to talk about their evil daddy. And we learned that all of them were born into a cult.
Yes.
We meet a gentleman named Hiram LeBron. That's their brother. And they've all been indoctrinated from birth and a really closed-minded way of thinking. An extreme fundamentalist Mormon group.
Yes. Yeah, which was an offshoot.
Right. Of John Smith's teachings, which is
so I was like, a cult. It's an offshoot of a cult.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Wow. So Evil with a hard R is the center of this fiasco, right?
Yep.
He believes that he was God's official mouthpiece on earth. And because of that, he was a polygamist, and he is estimated that he has 50 to 55 children.
And 14 wives.
He literally founded a church, him and his brother Joel. They founded a church called the Firstborn of Fulfillness of Times. It's not just Blacks who have troubles with titling things.
No.
And this church was just formed so that they could be polygamous.
That's all it was, because and it was formed in Mexico because polygamy was not legal in the state, so they were able to get a piece of land in Mexico so that they could practice what they wanted to do.
Now, it, like Jade said, it's an offshoot of an offshoot. It's based off of John Smith's Mormon teachings. And if you know anything a little bit, is, the Mormon churches, they operate off of a doctrine that was written way later that talks about way of living through the eyes of God or whatever, right?
Yeah, it involves some plates. Some golden plates and some.
And I got to be honest with you. I know that when we were watching this with Dr. Kia, I was like, I can't trust religious doctrine if it's not the text. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get the Torah, I get the Quran,
and that bitch needs to be about to damn near crumble in my hand.
Okay, yes, or etched in a stone, came from high. Okay.
And even
a burning bush with a nigga
this?
talking to me.
Who's translating? I don't believe nothing you niggas say.
Right. Written in English. If it didn't come in Hebrew or Arabic, I don't know her.
They're talking about the King James version of the Bible. I'm like, well, who's this nigga James?
Oh, that's another discussion.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, we should. Yeah.
I guess we're on our canceling tour, so why not, right? So.
Cancel his dick. Sorry.
So you know, in order to live the highest level of what is like celestial being,
Celestialism or whatever the fuck.
it's a lot of ladders and things. And where did we hear that a lot? Scientology. Pause. Did you see them commercials from the Church of Scientology during the Super Bowl?
Which ones? Because
First of all, there was a lot of religious commercials.
Because
a lot.
I was like, the fucking gall of you all to have a Zionist commercial on here while you all are using this to fucking bomb these people in a place that you deemed safe for them, which that's why nobody can trust nothing. You all deemed this place a safe zone, and you still use this as an opportunity to bomb them people while you were up here buying Super Bowl spots. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. They also had like one of King's Dr. King's children up there in this I Stand with like Israel commercial.
You wasn't Bernice, was it?
No,
I was like, Bernice,
it was somebody else.
None of that.
No, it's very odd. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's one of the King's children. It was somebody in like the movement because they made it a highlight of that commercial. And I was like,
so
this is
they had
weird.
a couple of Jesus commercials. It was like Jesus is love. Jesus would never. Jesus hung out with the heathens or whatever the fuck. And I said, who is this? Who? But they know. And then the bottom of it would be like, ILoveJesus.com or whatever their generic ass website was.
You know who a part of that is from the CEO of Hobby Lobby.
Oh, so it's definitely on the wrong side of things.
Yeah.
Which I already didn't trust it. I kept telling everybody in the room, I was like, yo, who the fuck is this? Or like, what is this commercial? Who is doing this?
Have you ever seen that campaign, He Got Us? It's very much like We Got Y'all. But it's a He Got Us, and it's paid by the CEO of Hobby Lobby, who's a fundamentalist Christian, who feels that
niggas are evil.
Which can I be honest? This also might get us canceled, but it's fine. I liken weird like young fundamentalist Christians to like young people who do crack.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
How did you get involved?
Or like young people who wear slips.
Yeah.
Like what, girl? It's true.
I don't know. Holiness is still right, friend. I don't know. Sometimes
Slips
you need
do
foundational garments.
No. We are going to throw away these fundamentalist ideas about what the fuck holy is. Nigga, I'm holy as shit. Funny. You know what I'm saying? Like, a nigga is... and I'm sick of your rhetoric.
Okay. Oh shit! Oh, that hurt my stomach. That was a good one. Okay, so back to this shit here, right? So, out of the two of them, Evil with a hard R and his brother Joel, Joel had the sense. He had somewhat of the sensibilities, right? He was deemed the prophet, whereas Ervil was the talker. He was good on the mic. He was able to come and convert folk, right?
And then they had their brother Verlin. And Verlin was more, he sounded like he was like the middle quiet child who might have like.
He was the muscle.
Kind of, yeah. He stood more with his brother Joel than he did with Ervil. And Ervil was like, Joel's getting a lot of traction. He was like, well, nigga, I'm a prophet. But his teachings were much more focused on hellfire, damnation. It was just like murder, kill. And so when his ego started flaring up, he was like, we're going to split this off. And he created his own. So then you had the Joelites and the Ervilites. And see, everyone in the community was telling Joel, they was like, get your motherfucking brother together. Okay, because he's losing his shit out here. And they ended up excommunicating Ervil, which is how they were able to split off into two different sects of what this original bullshit was. And so
Mm-hmm.
Ervil, Joel and Vernal, these fucking
Verlin.
names, and Verlin, Joel and Verlin, they ran the church out of
I
Los
keep calling
Molinos.
Vreeland out of.
They had a Vreeland.
Yeah.
They would run the church out of Mexico, like we said earlier, because of the laws around polygamy. So Ervil started his own church called the Church of the Lamb of God.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just be pulling shit
Mm-hmm.
together.
Yeah.
But his main motivation, that nigga just wanted tithes.
Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
people criticized Ervil a lot for not working. Like
Mhm.
he was lazy. But for whatever reason, they gave him power to separate and control who got married and who didn't,
Mhm.
which led him to this idea, well, since there could be only one true prophet here on earth, and that's me.
Whoa. Whoa.
You know what you smell what I'm stepping in?
So the Ervilites. So this is where the beginning of the outlaw mud show shit begins.
Yeah.
Because while Joel was like, God, gold plates, don't change your drawers for 7 days, or whatever it is that they teach, plus polygamy, Ervil was like, all of that, and we bringing guns in this bitch. We are bringing guns to the church. And so niggas started bringing guns into the church. Then this nigga got his hands on an old Mormon doctrine that they allegedly don't believe in anymore.
LOL.
Right. Called the blood atonement. And the blood atonement was what Ervil got himself
Fucking
good and
wild.
obsessed with. Okay. And it basically said that the taking of someone's life is okay, so that their blood can hit the ground to atone to God.
Holy hell. That shit is crazy. Like, I don't. What pissed me off about this documentary was that I get blinders, right? But they sat up here and lied to all of us to talk about we didn't know this nigga was mentally ill.
No,
Yeah,
no.
mammy. I don't believe
What,
that.
you talking about his children?
Yeah. They said that at the end, and I'm like, no, something
Okay.
I get that you brainwashed and you to think and yada yada yada.
No, they really, nigga, if you're so...
To quote Riley Freeman,
oh Lord,
when does personal accountability set in? When I see a motherfucker talking about blood atonement, I move. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't...
Yeah, until this nigga starts
These
talking
motherfuckers
about,
start
I'm going to
talking about
atone
they
you. If that nigga was threatening, they said, so the next
True.
thing they said, he started threatening the husbands in the church if they weren't tithing enough and following him. And when he brought the guns in, then he started creating soldiers and stealing niggas' wives.
Yeah.
Then people were scared to leave and they didn't know nothing else. And you have to, lest we forget, everybody who be in the shit is kind of dumb. So it's because of the brainwash, right? They cut off their education. They cut off their intellectual ability to think for themselves. They take all that from them, so the people just be warped.
Yeah.
Imagine living in a giant city like Denver or Houston and you still feel like you stuck in this shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, true. So Ervil brought in a gentleman named Dan Jordan.
Oh God. Evil lives here.
Yeah. Dan is a follower. He was an Ervilite, and Ervil thought that was going to be his bestie, right?
He was for a while.
And so Ervil was like, well, you need some women folk to marry, so here's my daughters. Here you go. So there was 2 that he offered to Dan, and there's a lot of sexual abuse and assault, so I'm gonna try to glaze over that. But
it
because
was
it's very, very triggering. But basically, Dan was given wives from Ervil
Yeah, his daughters. I
because he
mean, listen,
controlled.
I know that it's triggering, but it's what it was. Ervil was
Yeah.
pairing his 15 and 16-year-old daughters up with niggas to marry them because that's what they do, and he married his 15-year-old daughter Faye off to Dan. So we see Faye quite often throughout this documentary.
Yeah. Now Faye is still fucked up
Yeah.
because she still believes in polygamy. She still
And I'm not gonna
feels-
say
She said she does.
no,
She
no,
says
no,
she
no.
believes
No, I
it.
know.
But-
I'm not gonna say because there's people who enjoy. I mean, there are people who yes, they choose a life of polyamory, and
yeah, like I get it. One woman's night of work is another woman's night off. I totally understand that.
So there's people who
However.
choose the poly lifestyle, and I don't think they're fucked up if that's what works. Some people they relate to multiple love. In this particular instance and case,
Yes.
I think Miss Mamas is suffering from some PTSD.
I agree
Mhm.
100%.
Mhm.
So Ervil tells his followers that if they aren't following me, if anybody ain't following him, if anybody's
kill
not
them.
a part of the Ervil hive, you know, they need to be killed.
Yeah.
Because that's what it felt like.
It was
felt
the Herbal Hive.
It was the Herbal Hive.
Swarm.
Because when it's like, yeah, I was like, the Herbalites, I was like, this is a fan name. This is a stand name. I've been on the internet. I know what this is.
Well, I wonder if there's still
So-
people who believe in the Herbal Hive.
I believe it. And what makes me leery about these cult documentaries is how we'll end up getting copycats
Oh my
or
god!
like
Oh my god!
revivals of
Yes,
things.
I was thinking about that because I was like, "Why y'all?" Because they got too into detail with certain things, but we haven't gotten there yet.
When
but
we get to that Book of the Covenant, that shit was
Nigga.
because you could Google that shit. And what makes you think that that's not going to end up in somebody's manifesto when they try to take out do some public mass shooting like we happen to have every week in America,
or
you
how
know?
how they spoke on how they were taught to shoot. They were like, "Oh, we were taught to shoot this way because this is what's going to automatically make sure that somebody is dead." And it's like, can we just keep some things close to the chest? Like you can just say we were taught things without having to go into explicit detail. But I definitely thought to myself, I was like, there's a great number of people out here who are not well, as we are seeing right now. They have no hearts, they have no compassion, they have no morality, they have no none of that. And so what happens when those people hear shit like this? When they're already evil? It's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy.
Evil? Evil, actually. Dr. Evil.
So, speaking of evil, Ervil, after threatening everybody and their mother that they needed to follow him, Joel is lured away by Dan. Remember, you all need to remember Dan because Dan is the bestie, Ervil's bestie. He's this bitch, really, is what he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's Ervil's
His
bitch.
gopher.
Yeah. And he looks like one. And so Dan lures Joel away with a couple of other folks to an abandoned shack, and they beat him with a chair leg, and then they shot him in the mouth. It'd be your own niggas.
Yep. Literally assassinated by his own brother and niggas he
Yep.
trusted the most.
Yep. Now Ervil was not there physically, but obviously Ervil is the one who ordered the hit, which is another thing to keep in mind.
Right.
Mhm.
Now Faye gets up on the screen while they're playing white spades. What is that? Hearts and drinking marks. It is. It's literally that's how you play.
It is.
That's,
It is.
yeah.
That is. I thought White
yeah,
Spades was
why not?
bridge.
No. Hearts is the same. It's the same game as spades. Like if you play, like I remember playing it
This
on
is what,
Microsoft
like pussy.
Windows.
It's like pussy
Yeah.
spades.
Yeah, it's just instead of spades, it's hearts. That's all.
Oh, I live.
Now Faye got up there was talking about. Well, I didn't know what Dan was doing. Like I just, I didn't know he was killing people, and I was like, Queen, I don't know about that. I feel like because of how brainwashed you are, you know, or where I feel like you are trained to turn a blind eye or to think of this, you know, not think of this, but I feel like you knew, right?
Yeah.
So,
But then maybe not, because they didn't have any respect for women really, unless they were using them for something. And so Faye said she was
and
at the
that's
crib
not even
taking care
straight.
of babies and stuff.
Fair. Well, Erbil got wind that shit was about to get hot for him in Mexico.
Yeah.
And he just fled to America.
So this is where we find out that Erbil is always on the run. And Erbil's going to be on the run for a long time. But the way that he presented it to his wives and his kids was that he had a revelation. And so he would make them grab a trash bag like Silky Nutmeg Ganache, put their things in it in the middle of the night, and then they would get going. So after, because I'm still not over that, and I don't think I will be over that. There's no fucking reason for her to have shown up to that goddamn lip sync with that trash bag. So this particular time, while he's on the run from murdering Joel, the older brother pulls up to the crib with a moving truck. And it's mad kids. And he's like, get in, losers. We're moving again.
Get in, losers. We're invading federales.
He said, get in, losers. We're doing this for God's kingdom. And so they all get in the back of the truck. And they were like, they shut the door. It was pitch black and we don't know where we're going. I was like, this Handmaid's Tale if I ever fucking heard it. And so...
Pause.
Yes.
We need to take a break, but Handmaid's Tale has not even started filming yet. They just started filming this week, and it will premiere in 2025. So we have an update for you.
Let's take a break because I'm irritated.
Yeah. Let's take a break with more Erbil with the hard R. Hit it, Claude.
That's what the episode's called.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Brainwashing is super powerful and super real. I don't know if someone who wasn't brainwashed can quite understand the depths of that mind control.
And we're back. Talking Daughters of the Cult. The story of Erbil LeBaron, one of the evilest white men. Actually, he's an evil white man. But I'm like, you know what? There's some of them out there who've done some numbers. I'm gonna tell you who I think got as many bodies under their belt as Erbil LeBaron. Sean Combs. So, remember.
Oh yeah.
They have to move, and everywhere they move. These kids are taught to conceal their lifestyle. And so that means they're not allowed to go outside. They are not allowed to trust any type of authority. Authority was an instrument of Satan. Now, when they said this is where I said, a broken clock. Broken clock. Every so often.
This is also the same thing that the COS said.
A broken clock. A broken
Find Shelley
clock.
Miscavige.
Because
it's not about find her body. Not about
no.
Is she alive or not?
No, we just got to find her at this point. Joseph Biden. That fucking picture with those red laser eyes.
You know what that gives? That's giving I often feel like we live in like Team America.
Yeah.
Like that's giving like I'm so Rory. Like that's something that would happen.
It's look, but like, what a mockery.
Yeah.
Like we live in the most unfucking serious country ever. It's like a giant house party. It's like everybody's parents left to go out of town forever. And they always act like buck fucking wild white kids in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm. Or like white people after a football game.
Like that nigga really sat up here and told us with that stupid fucking picture that he doesn't give a single, I mean, not just with that picture, obviously, but what a disgusting show of how you don't give a fuck.
Have you seen how they be trying to soft launch Kamala? Because
Fuck Kamala.
she
Fuck
no,
Kamala.
only
Fuck her
because
doobie wrap. I hope that her fucking hot comb singes the middle of her hair.
only because the fact that like this Biden is listen, I know dementia when I see it. My grandmother died from it, so I listen, I know what I know, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't care.
Also, total side note. I was listening to this clip of this white podcast, which is very rare, but hear me out. They were talking about how voting is important and how there's like 100,000 or something like elected offices in America. And some of them are things that you would never know. Like some counties, you have to elect a coroner. And they were talking about the reason why voting is important. And sometimes you have to elect a coroner. And sometimes these coroners come with their own politic. So, say, for example, during the pandemic, which we're still in, but in the thick of it, right? There are coroners who had the right to determine who died of COVID and who didn't, because that would also determine how much vaccines got in the county. Or they also have the right and the power to determine if somebody was killed by the hands of state law enforcement.
Okay.
So, like for example, George Floyd, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't breathe.
Okay.
There's a you have to rely on a coroner to figure out, was this person killed by the police, with their grip or whatever, or by some other extenuating circumstance. So when we talk about when we don't vote, and I get that people are very sensitive about that, about politics in general, but when you think about even the smallest things of coroners, of how that determines so much. Like it determines what vaccines we get, how fairness of a trial Black and brown people get based on violence from
or even the narratives
law
that
enforcement
are documented and written and told. Like that makes sense. And I know on a local level it's much more it's important. But I hate these political figures.
I hate all of them. All of them, throw them in the washer. You know what I mean? Like, and wring them out to dry. But I do want to say, like, but I do want to talk about, like, in this case, because when I learned about that, I thought about this documentary, right? And I thought about, like, were there people? There's the funeral scene where they're about to have a whole shootout, right? Like, what the fuck was they gonna do? You know what I mean? And where the coroner have the forthrightness, are they an Irvillite? Right? How do we know if a coroner is on the right side of right? And they should be the most, or medical examiners, they should be the most neutral motherfucker on the planet.
Because with like because I seen this story on TikTok a while back. This Black boy said he was at a Denny's or somewhere and they were celebrating this old white man's birthday. So he went to the bathroom and as he passed the table, he was like, happy birthday, young man, just because he heard the family singing happy birthday, and this man was old as fuck. So on his way back, the old white man stops him and he has a conversation with him about how he's a firefighter, and basically like has this confession period where he tells this Black dude, because the dude was a truck driver, so he just happened to be grabbing something to eat. And so he tells this dude, he's like, people like yourself, like I have a lot of guilt because back in the day when I was a firefighter, you know, there were a lot of people that got left behind.
See?
And it's like you think about that in the context of firefighters, like you said, coroners, paramedics, mailmen, like just people in your everyday life that you don't really think about from a political standpoint, but the ways that they can still fuck with you from a that may not be as overt as like a police officer. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. That's why voting is important, and so is jury duty.
But fuck politics, though. Fuck politics.
Yeah. So back to this shit here. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm taking that detour. But they in Denver is 20 kids and 3 wives
In a 1,500 square foot house. Oh.
I know it smelled crazy.
You know it. That's the first thing I thought about. Especially that bathroom. Can you imagine what that bathroom looked like?
A truck stop.
Hello? That Shell that I had to stop at on my way back from school. Oh, God. It's a memory.
Yeah. No.
Memories.
So, Hard R Evil had the biggest balls that you've seen thus far. He was like, you know, it's nothing. I'm going to go back to Mexico and turn myself in.
Because I'm God.
Because I'm him. Okay?
him. He.
Yeah.
He.
Yeah.
Before I created the heavens and the earth, I was. When the earth and everything in it passes away, I will be.
And to be honest, that's exactly what the fuck happened. So he marches himself down to Mexico and is like, hey, I'm the nigga y'all been looking for. I killed all these people. What's good? Oh, okay, sure. So they let him sit in jail for a year.
Yeah.
Awaiting trial.
Yeah. And you know what he was able to do while he was in there? Conceive a child. Because the girl who was conceived there ended up being one of the children on the documentary. And then later on, the siblings are watching the made-for-TV movie about their father together, which I found to be more comical than it should have been. And so, so anyway, the girl, so they show the Mexican courthouse in the part where he walks in and he's like, I am Ervil, I'm who you look, but I am a prophet and you will release me. And they were like, oh, it's the courthouse where you was conceived.
I screamed.
Hollered. Do you hear me?
I was like, oh, ABC, you got jokes.
Hooted and hollered is what I
said.
They was clowning all while watching that made-for-TV movie. But we'll get to that later. So yes, he goes in. He's like, bust it. It's me, but I'm a prophet. And there's nothing that you can do about it. And they were like, sit here for a year. So he sat there for a year. Then, right after he was charged, and he was given 12 years for murder, he was released the next day on a technicality. Why? Because bribery. Capitalism.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, that particular government of that country is, you know,
no, I'm saying
money talks.
You know, those are my people too. But they can be the federales can be very corrupt.
Yeah. And I get it. But
absolutely. Hello, look at where the fuck we live. We got the most corrupt government, I think, next to Okay. So
then Ervil, now he's done put on ether and he was like, okay, now Verlin's the next target.
Oh my God. It was that Wu-Tang's Triumph came on.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the wildest. It's like every episode I was like, okay, this don't need to be 5 hours. Like, why? And then
yes, I still think they could have truncated this into 3 episodes because
me too.
But anyway, so okay, it's the day after Christmas in Los Molinos, and it's quiet, and everybody just got finished celebrating the holiday, having themselves a good time. Boom, explosion. Their tower bursts into flames. Okay. So the town gathered so that they could all collectively put the fire out. It was a ploy. Because as soon as everybody start running out to put the fire out, what happens? They start getting shot up. They just shooting. They just start shooting.
Niggas started a drive-by.
Not the worst part. They then, yes, got in a fucking truck, drove around Los Molinos, shooting up every single house, and throwing a Molotov cocktail on the roof of every house. It's babies, it's mamas with babies, it's children, it's all kinds of and then when they run out of the house because of the Molotov cocktail, shots fired. Now, it was and this was clearly all church members, right? This was all church members, so they were going for because they're the ones who made up that part of the desert, and so they were firing on their family members and on their church members.
All because he was looking for Vreeland.
All because he was looking for
Verland.
Whatever the fuck that nigga's name is. So it was 24 homes that burned down. There was 19 gun injuries, and then 2 people died. But it was a big old. We've seen bigger massacres. Okay, we're seeing bigger ones now. But it was a mess.
I did find it interesting that this was all happening in tandem with the Jonestown murders.
Yes. Yes.
I was like, that's interesting. Like, did y'all have like a meetup like Jeff and RuPaul does? Like, you know, at the beginning at Paramount, and was like, you know, here's what we're gonna do, kids. Like, you know?
Perhaps actually.
Because it's all similar stuff.
It is. Well, all of this, and remember, this was a big time for organizations and AKA cults, and this was a big time for that. Fast forward to 1977, because all that stuff happened in 74. They're in Denver. Now, this is where you need to keep some names in mind.
This is where I had trouble.
Okay.
But this is why I said I had, because normally I could recognize faces and differentiate, but they all kind of look alike. So it was like,
no, they do. And chosen people. Hiya. But you look sick. Okay, so Rena, keep her in mind. She was the 13th at last and the youngest wife of Ervil. He married her when she was 16 years old, but pursued her since she was 12. Disgusting. Yeah. Obviously he raped her. We're gonna have to just put a big disclaimer at the top of this. And she was actually gonna rebel against marrying him, but he had this revelation. She's indoctrinated as fuck, and probably all the people in her family, so she had to marry him. So she ended up marrying him. Now, there was also Ramona. Ramona was not Ervil's wife. Ramona was Dan's wife, I believe. One of his wives. She was also a rebel. She used to grow weed. Yes, she had to marry Dan Jordan when she was a teenager. And Ervil was grooming them to become killers for God. Rena and Ramona, remember that. So told them he had some revelations, some prophecy, he had to fulfill some prophecies. God told him there was people that he needed to atone. So there's an old nigga who is also a Mormon fundamentalist polygamous preacher. Yeah, who also was viewed as some sort of prophet to his people, and he was also a naturopath doctor. And so
he was one of the first mega church owners.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he had 12,000 constituents.
Well, shit, I didn't know that.
That's why Ervo was like, "Oh, hey there now."
Oh, yes, because remember, Ervil's driving motivation for getting members was so that he could get all the money that was going to these leaders. So the man's name was Rulin Allred. Okay, Rulin Allred, and Ervil was like, "I want that nigga's members, so we're gonna kill him."
Rulin also had 48 children.
he was a polygamist.
Yeah.
They was all like this. Let's be clear. Everybody involved. So we move on to episode 2. Okay. And this is where we pick back up with the Rulin' Allred murder. All right. So Rulin' Allred was actually located in Salt Lake City, Utah. We already know what Salt Lake City, Utah is the hub for. Rena and Ramona, who we talked about, remember that's Dan's wife and Ervil's youngest wife.
Mm-hmm.
There was a plot. They said, what's his face? Ervil said, you bitches are gonna go kill this nigga for me because I have to atone. And so they dressed up in wigs and dicky suits, ran up in his naturopath office and shot him 4 times. And then they ran back out. But while they're in the car, Rena tells Ramona, I don't know if he's dead or not. And if they did not kill him, this is how indoctrinated, how brainwashed they were, how controlled they were. If they were not dead, the mission was to kill. If they weren't dead, then they knew they would be atoned. So mamas, mind you, there are people in this office, the people who work there, there's other patients there. Mama runs back into the office and shoots him again to make sure that he's dead. Now, Ramona she froze up when all this was going down. So she never pulled the trigger. She was never able to do anything. And they went back and they shot him in the face, or Rena went back and shot him in the face. And so remember that. Now, nobody could identify these women because of the wigs and the dicky suits. And they assumed that it was some extreme feminist women who were against polygamy and just wanted to see Rulin' Allred dead.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! But
it was also wild hearing Rena. Yeah, it was also wild hearing Rena's voicing the whole thing.
Yes, because they had an old interview of her on the BBC recounting her story. So, Rulin's dead. Okay. Next in line to be atoned was Verlin. Verlin was originally the target, but they knew they had to get this nigga Rulin out of here because they wanted his people. Now they focused their attention back on Verlin, which again is Ervil's brother. These names. Mm-hmm. So the plan was to attack and kill Verlin at Rulin's funeral. Child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So they wanted the women to carry this out in addition to some of the men. I need a ride or die. Is that you, baby? I need a ride or die. Is that you, baby? I need a ride or die. Now, this is where we get like, how did these niggas sustain themselves with 135 kids?
Yeah.
They had an appliance repair business that they called Michael's Appliance for Michael the Archangel. The boys would fix the appliances. The girls would clean all of the rodents and the rodent shit and the rodent the excrement and all of the things out of the appliances, and the boys would fix them. And there was a lot of theft going on as well. They were stealing a bunch of this shit, but they were doing all this so that they could sustain Ervil. Because remember, Ervil was always on the run. Anna, who's one of the sisters that is talking through all of this, Anna didn't even meet Ervil until she was 9 years old because of how much this nigga hopped around. So go ahead.
Let's take a break.
Oh shit.
Yeah, let's take a break and we'll be back with more this.
Yeah.
Hit a clock.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Today I would like to talk to you about women who become pregnant during visitation at state prisons. Many women have told stories about conceiving their child in the prison visitation center.
And we're back talking about Daughters of the Cult. Again, trigger warning, and all that jazz.
Yeah. Where are we at?
Where are we? Right. Oh, the business, right? They're supporting themselves. The children are doing slave labor.
Yes.
Just like they did in the
Shein.
Oregon COS, right? Oh, that too. And Wayfair.
No, they was just stealing kids. And
Trafficking.
Trafficking
Yeah,
them through
yeah,
wardrobes and shit.
That's
crazy.
Wow. So they end up finding the murder weapon.
Yes.
For Allred.
Yes.
Two people were looking for the trash for recyclables, and they ended up finding all of the evidence, right? And this is helpful because, like, oh, we can finally make a case and we can finally find who's doing what or whatever. So, you know, in the middle of all this, we learned about a woman named Rebecca. Rebecca is Ervil's daughter or Dan's daughter.
Rebecca's Ervil's daughter, but I'm trying to see.
Right. Ervil, they killed her because of her mental illness.
Yeah, but that's not at this part.
Yeah, it's in episode 2.
No, it's not.
Because remember, right after that, he's like threatening his kids and wives because they're scared of him, and then they raid his house in Denver.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Anyway. Okay.
Either way, they didn't believe in mental health either. So
no, they didn't. They called insanity. They called it the insanity, and they said that was essentially devil possession.
So the feds end up raiding the house in Denver.
They got tipped off because they cross-referenced the serial number that the men who were rummaging for the recyclables on the packaging that went back to Denver. Now I'm gonna give you a thing. All right, it's traced back to Denver. A lady named Nancy bought the gun a week earlier. Nancy was married to a nigga named Victor. Victor, his younger sister, was a bitch named Rena. And Rena was Ervil's 13th wife, the one we talked about. So that's how they were able to make the connection all the way back to Ervil. So then that's when they learn about Joel and Los Molinos and how Ervil is on the top 10 most wanted list by the FBI.
FBI most wanted.
And this was also a decade after the Manson family murders. So he was labeled as the Mormon Manson.
Yeah. So they raid their house in Denver, and of course, he's on the run. Can't find him.
Nope.
And all of a sudden, all the kids get in a car, and they find themselves back in Mexico.
Now, like we said, Ervil knew that Rulin's funeral was going to be huge, which also makes sense on when you say he's one of the first mega churches. And Verlin definitely showed up as planned, and there was definitely niggas down the street in a truck ready to go and spray the chopper at the funeral. Howsoever, there was also a bunch of police presence at the funeral, and so they didn't think that they were going to be able to battle with that. They knew they would die, so they abandoned the mission. But they abandoned the mission with fear because they knew, because they didn't carry out Ervil's orders, that they could be killed when they got back for not doing so. Oh yes, this is where Rebecca. Yes, we did find out about Rebecca here, and then we found out they took her to the mountain and strangled her while she was pregnant. That's absolutely nuts, and buried her. Now
Ervil gets nuttier.
Yep.
He shows up in Mexico. In his first time meeting, this is where Anna talks about this was his first time meeting him, her father, at age 9. And he has such a commanding presence. They talk about him having Hollywood looks, LOL.
I said, well, which Hollywood, Virginia? Wisconsin.
Yeah. Indiana.
Because he looks
No,
like he
it
does
just didn't work.
taxes in one of those nasty offices.
With a bunch of cigarettes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was so high off of his own supply. He was sending letters to everyone that you could think of, threatening them if they didn't pay tithes that they would have to blood atone.
He sent it to Jimmy Carter, the president of the United States at the time, and said, listen here.
Who is still alive today.
Is he?
Kind of. Yeah, I mean, technically.
Damn.
His wife just died not too long ago. Like 2 months ago.
Okay.
But he's technically amongst the land of the living.
Holding on. So he sends this letter to Jimmy Carter, and it's like, I'm the real POTUS, and you need to tithe to me, nigga. So, now, Ervil's first wife, he had a first wife, and his son Isaac. They were the ones who started to question where Rebecca was. That's the daughter we told you that was taken away. And when they realized something bad had happened, they were like, damn all this shit. We're going to the cops. Like, we're sick of it. So when they go to the cops, Isaac names the killers and 2 men who were involved in the raid in Los Molinos, and which were Eddie and Mark Shanoff. Now, you're going to hear a lot about Mark later on. And you'll hear a little bit about Eddie, but something big as well. So keep them in mind. Eddie and Mark Shanoff, okay? So they were allegedly the 2 men who were responsible for killing Rulon Allred for Ervil. And they also joined Ervil's community as like very young children. And Isaac, because he was Ervil's son, had been to a lot of the meetings that they had been having about how they were going to take care of Rulon and all of that. And so he was able to speak to all the murder plots and plans that they had in place. So in the fall of 77, the cops raid the house. Remember, we said it was 20 kids and 3 wives up in a 1,500 square foot house. Imagine the police. It's like an episode of Hoarders. Like when you
Oh yeah, but with people.
And so they raid the house, and Ramona, Eddie, and Mark were all taken into custody. But Ramona was never convicted. Remember, Ramona was with Rena when they killed Rulon. She was never convicted though. And all they told the kids about the raid, like imagine a SWAT team running up in your crib and all your mother says is, we're God's chosen people, and God's chosen people get persecuted. Because that's what they told them 20 kids. That's what they told them 20 kids when the feds ran up in the crib. Okay. So from there, they had to put some more clothes into a trash bag and leave again.
Cause I'm riding my thumb to Mexico. Riding my thumb to Mexico. It don't matter when or how I go.
They didn't ever know. They were like, we didn't know if we was going to the store or if we was going to Mexico. They're like, we never knew where we were going. It's fucked up. So now they go back to Mexico and they are put in different households. And this is where we meet one of Ervil's Mexicans. Remember, if he's in Mexico, he's got some Mexican followers. And he's got one. The nigga's name is Andres. So Andres starts grooming Anna, the one who is telling a lot of this story, Anna and Celia. He starts grooming Anna at 9 years old to be his wife. Crazy town. So now between Rulon getting killed and Joel getting killed in Mexico, the U.S. authorities start really working with the federales to get Ervil. So the federales raid the apartment that Rena and Dan were there. Okay, there's a second raid going on down the block at the second house where Ervil happens to be, but it's like gel in your hands starts slipping through your fingers. So federales are raiding both houses at the same time. Okay, remember that Rena and Dan were in the first one. Ervil was in the second one. When the federales grabbed Ervil, Ervil said he wasn't Ervil. When the other Federellis grabbed Dan, Dan lied and said he was Ervil, and they let the real Ervil walk. Had him right in the grass.
Dummy.
Stupid. So we get to episode 3, and they start off. So Rena was taken into custody, and Mama is mocking the Federales. Y'all had that nigga, and you didn't even.
Yeah.
She's like, you didn't even get him. And of course, they go back to get him, and where is he? So gone. So she was being extradited back to the States because the FBI was waiting at the bridge in Laredo, Texas, waiting at the door.
They did a Handmaid's Tale.
Okay, and they were like, give us the bitch. And Ervil was fully on the run again.
So Ervil's gone, and Mark, I keep wanting to call him Shinoda, but that's not his last name. Mark S is what I have.
Yeah, there you go. Shanoff.
Yeah. Shanoff, right.
Who is
he ended
Rena's
up turning
brother.
himself in. Rena's brother turned himself in. While the kids are all in the car, because they were like, they're constantly on the move. He goes to the border, turns himself in, waving to the children. It's gonna be okay, guys. It's fine. You know, I run LA. You know, that kind of thing. He turned himself in so he could testify on Rena's behalf.
Now, we need to pause and note, because I think this is important for how the story continues to develop. Even though these people are crazy as cat shit, they're all brainwashed, they're all controlled. And the majority of them, the great majority, are evil as fuck. Celia and Anna note to us that Mark was the only man who was a part of this community who actually gave a fuck about them as people. They were like, he never groomed young girls to be wives. He was like, no, y'all need to be kids. I'm gonna support you in that. He never longed to have other relationships or other wives himself. And he was married. Mark was married to Lillian, who was Ervil's daughter. So Mark is Rena's brother, but Lillian is the half sister of Anna and Celia. She's one of Ervil's kids. And so Mark and Lillian were together, and they were actually in love, unlike a lot of the relationships. And so he gave a fuck. So he gave a fuck about them. He gave a fuck about Lillian, but he was also under the spell of Ervil. So he had committed multiple murders in Ervil's name. True believers is what they called themselves. So yeah, that's important to note.
Right. So when he turns himself in, he believes that God will prevail and that he's going to come out unscathed. And so people feared Ervil so much during the trial, like prosecution would get death threats and stuff.
Yep.
So everybody was walking on eggshells.
Yep.
So
that nigga had really big balls.
He had hitters and like in different area codes. It was wild.
How you sending letters threatening the prosecutors?
I know. Like hey, you're not gonna threaten me via snail mail. Like, suck my dick. Like, I'm not.
Do a yellow legal pad. I wish you would.
Yeah. Okay. Try to fax to me. Go ahead on. So, trial happens, right, for Rena and everybody who is a
part of Rulin's murder.
After a 4-hour deliberation, they were all acquitted.
And we find out that one of the jury members was also threatened. So that was a big reason that she was able to get off. Meanwhile, back in Mexico, Federales is like, these white people these gringos came up in here being crazy, and Jonestown had just happened. So they were like, we can't have none of this on the soil. Like, we can't have that. So they had enough. They found Ervil and they arrested him. He resisted, but they arrested him, and they got him and they handed him over to the U.S. authorities at the bridge. Yeah.
Where, again, he displays his big cojones because he talks for 5 hours to the feds just about life. But then he talks to them and says he's the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Now, I said he's just playing crazy, but whatever, right? Um,
I don't
I
think
mean,
he was playing.
but I mean, he was, but I just feel like he was smart enough to know that I'm in trouble here and I need to figure out a way to get out of this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, which led the prosecution to, it made it very difficult to put this shit on him that he was a criminal mastermind. Because, like, how is he a criminal mastermind when he's claiming that he's the president of the United States? Like,
And
that's not helpful.
also, it also was hard for them because he was not physically there when Rulon was killed.
Right.
But they had a break. That son Isaac from the first wife that we told you about earlier, who went to the police, Isaac was one of the 40 witnesses who testified that Ervil was behind Rulon's murders. And so he was like the most important part of the state's defense because they had nothing outside of that. So with him being present for a lot of these planning sessions and all of that, he was the most important piece. And so Ervil was convicted to life in prison, I believe, first degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder and life in prison. And while he was in the jail, this nigga was writing and writing and writing and writing and writing
And fucking bitches.
And no.
He had some of the wives come through.
Oh, and you're right, and was fucking. That's crazy. Because I don't think he was allowed conjugal visits.
No, they were sneaking in like they was doing Ted Bundy, boning behind the Coke machine.
What are you talking about?
I saw her name in the register.
Jesus Christ.
You want her to visit you? Let her stay up all night crying and writing letters to the parole board.
What am I doing here? Where am I? I'm in jail. I can't stop people from coming.
That nigga was fertile like a rabbit.
Yeah.
Like, we just gonna do a one shot and a baby. So
that's such a waste.
So he got life in prison, and his writings were getting worse. They were getting dark, they were getting sinister. And the only thing that he would request was yellow legal pads. And they said my boy would fill up 5 of them at a time with all of his writings. He wanted his followers. A lot of them were letters. He wanted his followers to come break him out of prison.
Yes.
And they said no.
No.
And he would tell them from prison in that yellow legal pad, if you don't come break me out of prison, you're going to be a toad. And these niggas were like, stay in prison.
Yeah. You're going to be put on the list. And because he had a list.
Oh, he had let me tell you, so our downfall list don't have shit on this nigga's list. So there was a list of people that needed to be atoned. I believe they said it was over 50 people who were marked for death on this list. All right. But Ervil was found dead in his cell. Now, they don't think that Ervil just flat out unalived himself. They said this nigga either was killed or this was very intentional, because the cause of death was a heart attack. But they said that his throat was so swollen and had so much hemorrhaging that he either struck himself in the throat like multiple times, or he OD'd on some medication.
You see what I mean? The importance of a coroner or medical examiner?
Because they said it was a heart attack.
Because that changes a lot of things.
So now his writings that were released from prison are somebody took them down to Kinko's. They laminated them and bound them.
It definitely was the Kinko's, ring thing.
And early Kinko's, not even good Kinko's when they merged with FedEx.
We weren't FedEx Kinko's.
Okay.
It was Kinko's.
It was just Kinko's. And with that familiar K. And so, and so went down to the Kinko's. They laminated and bound his notebooks and said, New Covenant.
Yeah, the book of the New Covenant.
So what happens? See, this is why we say you got to get rid of teenagers. Because he had a handful of teenage children followers in Mexico who were like, okay, bet. We've got to make sure that we atone for this list that he put out there because these are spiritual words. And so clearly this is things that we have to carry out. And they formed their
Brainwashed,
own
emotional teenage boys.
Yep. And what happened? Who were not raised, by the way. And what ends up happening? There's an offshoot of the offshoot of the offshoot called the Kingdom of God that is formed. And it is these outlaw mud show teenage jackals.
I appreciate you embracing the term outlaw mud show.
I like
Jim Cornette.
It's very fitting for a lot of things.
Shout out to Jim Cornette.
Yes.
Speak your name.
So it's a lot of that shit happening. Okay, niggas is wilding, and he's out, and they're teenagers with guns, frightening.
Let's take a break. We still got more because that's when you think, because it gets wilder, y'all. Right?
Yeah, it does. By more and more.
Yeah. We'll be back with more. Hit it, Claude.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Nate Carlisle has spent years covering polygamous groups for the Salt Lake Tribune.
It goes all the way back to when the mainstream church did away with polygamy. Some people traveled to Mexico to continue the practice of polygamy, and so you see a variety of communities.
And we're back talking about
Evil with the
Daughters
Hard
of the Cult. Evil with the Hard R. So we're at episode 4.
The hit list.
Right. So we finally made it to the 80s.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Also, lawless.
Yeah. Lawless decade for a lawless turn of events. Right. So the church broke off into 3 groups after this. Right. And so Ervil happened to have chosen his son Arturo. Yeah. Now I will say they do have a lot of Mexican names, which is interesting here.
They got a lot of interesting names, and they have Mexican names. They have
biblicalist names.
Yeah, but like them kind when they used to like cut a goat.
Puritan names.
Yeah, like Heber. So.
Yeah. Now I know a Mexican Eber though, but it's not with the H-E, it's just an Eber.
I will tell you also, Mis Primos be having like some real like German influenced Latino names. Like it's very yeah.
That's interesting.
Not just German, but like some
That's
real
like
Nordic
how,
white
like,
shit.
the people like how like members of the Jewish community fled to Mexico.
Yes.
And how that makes sense.
Frightening.
Yeah.
So Arturo is from La Jolla, Mexico, and he runs a criminal enterprise. Okay, but he was picked as Ervil's successor, which was quite dangerous because he didn't operate under any spiritual guise whatsoever. Dike, because who in this did? But for all intents and purposes, his shit was straight up mafia shit. Okay, Papa wanted to steal cars, sell drugs, and kill people. So he built the KOG with the younger generations of Ervil in Mexico. And they ran this auto theft ring, which was essentially their way to make money. Because you remember, he was in the appliance business. So they ran this auto theft ring. They were like, yeah, damn that. We're just going to steal the cars. They would go to the U.S. and steal cars, drive them back across the border, and either sell them or chop them up. That's how there was some narco shit. So in 80,
which they do know in this show. They do talk about narcos.
Oh yes. Yes. So in 83, Arturo was beefing with one of the members of his KOG community. And to show that he was the HMIC, he shot him in the one of the community members wanted to be Arturo. He wanted to be the leader. And he wanted to make all the money from the auto theft ring. So Papa shot Arturo in the back and killed him. But the KOG still lived. So the next in line after Arturo was William Heber LeBaron.
the hot boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Heber
Hot
like
boy
drugs.
Ronald. Hot boy Heber. Hot boy Heber.
Yeah, hot boy Heber. He like drugs and fast women.
Yeah.
Like
He liked the party. He likes to party.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we're gonna take a break from him and we'll move on to Dan. Back to Dan Jordan.
Oh yeah. Remember Dan was Ervil's bitch bestie.
Mm-hmm. So since there was no little child slavery under Dan's spell, he was shook because he was poor.
Yeah.
And he wasn't used to that.
No.
And so Anna and Celia's mama, they were under Dan. She was under Dan's spell, right?
Mm.
And we forgot to mention that earlier, Dan had promised all the kids that if they worked really hard,
One
summer that they would get $50 for school shopping. Mind you, they had to dig in like donation bins and shit to get clothes.
Child, they told us they would go to the Goodwill bin. One would hoist, one would shimmy.
Mm-hmm.
They'd pull the bags out and hope for the best.
Yeah. So, of course, they were going to work extra hard because they wanted fly shit to wear to school.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Dan lied to them, didn't give any money to Ervil's kids.
Nope.
But Dan's kids showed up looking flea in the flyest of 1980s apparel.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Anna was like, nope. I have a problem and I'm going to speak on it, right?
Hmm.
So Anna was like, I don't have time for this. I need to get out of here. So
Yeah.
she called Lillian. Remember Mark S.'s wife.
Yes, and also her older sister.
Her eldest sister. And she told her, I want to go back to Denver because this shit ain't working out. And I feel like at the time they were living in Houston.
They were, yeah. Because
Lillian
remember
said,
when Dan came back and talked to their mother, Dan was like, because they were starting to be happier. Ervil was dead and they were in Houston and they weren't directly a part of all the shit. They were still a part of the cult, but they weren't like as immersed. And so when Dan showed up to the crib and told their mother, y'all need to move to Denver, that's when Anna was like, I'm not going there. Like, I don't like any of this. I'm not doing it. And she ran.
right. So Lillian was like, listen, just start walking.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask no questions.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Don't
walk.
look back.
And don't look back. Mama just walked out the crib and just started walking.
Yep.
Lillian found her walking.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, get in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lillian takes her to a motel and where she gave her money for snacks and sodas and shit and was like, stay here, don't answer for nobody, nothing, unless it's me and you hear my voice. And even then, be cautious.
Mm-hmm.
Anna is 13 at the time, and she stays in hiding for 3 years in that motel.
No, not 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
No. She stayed.
She said 3 years.
No,
it took her
she
3
was-
years to get out.
No, she was in the motel right after the thing, but then the mother came. She looked for her for a couple days, and then was like, "All right, y'all, I can't find your sister, and we gotta go." So the mother, when she packed up all her shit and told the kids to pack up their shit in the garbage bags and get in the car, that's when Lillian came back and got her out the motel. That wasn't 3 years. Lillian couldn't afford no fucking motel for 3 years.
I swore they said 3 years.
It was a couple days. It was like 3 days that she was in the motel. But then after, it was 3 years in between time that she saw her sister, Celia. So when
that makes more sense because Celia broke free 4 years
Exactly.
after that. Yeah.
So
Okay.
3 days, Lillian
My
comes
bad,
to
y'all.
get her. I was like, they didn't even have the budget for that.
It's a lot of information. I
It
told you when it
is.
gets down to here, it gets dicey because I was just like, oh wait, it's a lot of stuff to recall.
Okay, so the mother, again, the mother's like, oh, Anna, where are you? Can't find her. We gotta go. And they're like,
Oh yeah, because I remember they made the point about how could a mother just abandon their
You
kid
just leave
like
it.
that?
She's
Like, that's fucking
13.
wild.
But the mother was like, fuck it, we got to go to Denver. So she went to Denver. And then Lillian came and got Anna out the motel. Anna went to go live with Lillian and Mark and take care of their kids. And like, that's what, remember, she felt loved because Mark actually loved his wife unlike everybody else. And she didn't realize, this is when she was telling us, she didn't realize that when she left, she was leaving a cult because she still at this point had no clue that she was in a cult. So meanwhile in Mexico, Heber's getting comfy with the leader and prophet. Okay, he's with being the leader and the prophet, even though there was no spiritual element to anything he was doing. And he was basically setting up a little militia and teaching the little ones how to use guns. And so they said people on the ranch were just murdered. If they turned on Arturo, if they questioned him, if they did anything, they were killed. There was no more, he had no moral compass. So in addition to that, the Kingdom of God, the KOG, they started sex trafficking the women that were in the KOG. They were sleeping with their half sisters. They were murdering them. They were prostituting them. All while Anna is living in Mark and Lillian's house and helping them. But they were like, and Mark and Lillian were starting to inch themselves away from Ervil's teachings. Just, I don't know how they got caught up in that in the first place. Now, Anna's helping out one day. She's cleaning up. She's putting laundry away. And she goes into Rena's wardrobe, her armoire or whatever. She finds a book. The book is called The Prophet of Blood. She said, well, what in the fuck is this? So she takes it, she goes to her room, she locks the door, and Mama gets to reading. That's where she finds out all the shit. Because remember, they were not very truthful with the kids about Ervil being on the run from the feds. Obviously, the kids didn't really know about his murders like that. Like, they were in the dark for the most part. She got all the juice. She got all of it from the book and found out the person that her father was. She was 15 years old when she found this out. So she had to process the fact of learning that her father was a murderer, that he killed mad people. She learned about all the bombing. She learned about the Molotov cocktails. She learned about the shootings. She learned about ruling. She learned about all of that. 15 years old and had nobody to process this information with.
Yeah.
Nobody. Nuts.
Mama's head was spinning.
Can you imagine?
No.
So, Heber's on killing sprees. Okay. He killed his brother, Andrew, who was the main mechanic for the auto theft business. And then, of course, the business declined. These niggas weren't making any money. So then the KOG was like, Heber, you fucking suck. Like, you've got to step down.
Yeah.
So Heber steps down, and his brother Aaron, very important to note, steps up.
Yes.
And at 19 years old, he is the new prophet.
So I recently received a prophetic word. This was back in November, and it was actually while I was in the state of California. And then the Lord began to speak to me about fasting. So I'm going to talk about that afterwards. I saw a vision of a desert with carrots planted in box shapes and rows. And then I began
and has established that his next target is Dan Jordan.
Yes. Now, the issue with Aaron is what you got to watch out for the quiet ones. Because remember, we said Heber was the party boy. Aaron was quiet. He was thoughtful. He took the teachings of Ervil, the quote unquote spiritual side of them, in addition to the killing side of them, and merged those worlds together. So he had a way of talking to the people to let them know, like, these are acts of God, which is their way of coercing and continuing to brainwash them. And yes, Dan was the next target. Take it away.
So, Dan isn't getting converts like he needs. Like he's, they, for whatever reason, they keep trying to recruit people to this cult still. And it's just like,
it's only for
that's
money.
Dead, friends.
Because Dan, remember at this time, Dan is claiming to be a prophet as well. So he's claiming to be a prophet, and he's trying to convert LDS members to the fundamentalist side of things. And even they're like, nigga, get this crazy shit out of here. We don't want no parts of this.
Right. So one night, Celia, who's in this duck a lot, you know, she gets 40 lashings for speaking out of turn at the dinner table. Yeah, and now it was from her own mother and Dan's other wife.
Yep.
And Celia was like, "This is some bullshit, mama. Like, how dare you?" And Celia's mama was like, "Well, I suggest you go."
But before that, they told Celia, they were like, okay, after this beating, you're not going to be able to finish your senior year. You need to work. And also, you're not celestial.
She wanted to learn how to read.
Yeah, she wanted to learn how to read, and she wasn't celestial. What does that mean? She's hellbound.
She didn't have yeah. She didn't have a husband or several husbands or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So her mama told her to get out right now. It's the end of you and me. And she called her sister and was like, "Hey girl, this is some bullshit." And her sister was like, "Well, I've been waiting, girl." So bought her a plane ticket to escape.
Yep.
And she left.
Yeah. And this is clearly pre 9/11, when you can meet loved ones at the gate, because Anna and Lillian and all of them at the end of the gate, and they're like, "Yes, welcome home, sugar." And Celia, who is 2 years older than Anna, was able to enroll in high school with Anna and finish her senior year, and they graduated together.
Now, back in Mexico, the plan was underway.
Child. Okay.
The plan was underway because remember, Dan was the next target to be offed.
Yep.
So one day, Dan has 7 children on his porch asking him for help,
including Aaron.
They're like, including Aaron, like, help us get free. You know, Heber has lost his mind. We're trying to do right by people. You know, just help us. We'll even do slave labor for you because we know you need money, and blah, 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 blah. And Dan, you know, was very much like Dr. Evil and was like, $1 billion.
And it's where greed gets you fucked up. You get on a winning streak at the casino. At some point, you've got to tap out before you lose it all.
Yeah. And he still don't really trust these kids like that. But he's like, well, I do need money. But I'm going to carry my gat on me, you know, just in case one of y'all starts to get froggy, right?
Yeah, so he became like an evil Miss Hannigan.
Yeah. So,
Eviler.
like, he taught more evil, right? So, like, he took the kids camping and hunting, you know, various white activities, right? And so, one time, they go out hunting, and they set up a whole camp. They're doing like s'mores and other things that white people do outside.
I laugh because Faye said the annual camping trip. She goes, "This is the only time he spent time with his kids."
Yeah. They're singing, you know, chants and things, whatever they do. I don't know.
Kumbaya.
And so Dan had to, you know, go to the bathroom. And normally Dan doesn't ever leave without his gun on him. You know, he keep that motherfucking thing on him. You know
Not
what
since
I mean?
the Bebe's kid showed up on his doorstep.
Yeah, he's like, I keep that thing on me, right? And so, which is why I assume that's what we talked about in the beginning of the episode. I was like, oh, he had to have had to shit because that's the only way that makes sense to me.
I don't know. I'm thinking he had to pee because I feel like if he had to shit, he knew he was going to be there for a second and he would have really needed it. But if he had to pee, he was like, I'm just going to pee real quick. So I don't want to shoot myself in the dick while I'm peeing.
That's fair too, but you also don't want to like shoot yourself in the ass while you're shitting either. Like,
There's
you know
also
what I mean?
that.
Also could shoot yourself in the dick while shitting. So I don't know. Either way, he left his gun on a log somewhere, and Aaron was like, "Well,
now's the
here's
time."
my cue. He walked over there and shot him point blank while he was using the bathroom.
Or somebody did. Or
somebody did, excuse me.
Hey, pull over, will you? I gotta take a leak.
The cops show up. I don't know if they heard it. And I also, if you all were on a hunting trip, I guess the sound of a rifle and a 9mm is gonna sound, or whatever he got shot with, maybe sound. Whatever the case is, the police came out, and they were like, "We don't give a fuck if you're kids. Round up. We've got questions to ask." So they're asking them, but they had no evidence, and there was nothing that everybody was accounted for when he was in the woods taking a shit. So they were like, okay, and they had to let them go. Aaron starts wilding. Even though he's the thoughtful one, he starts wilding. So he was arrested for disturbing the peace, but he was released. And then he vanishes like his father, okay? In the meantime, Mark and Lillian, they're trying to go on with their lives and like inch away from this shit more and more until one day, Anna was supposed to go into the shop to work. Remember, she worked at the appliance shop for Mark. She's supposed to go into the shop to work, but she's not feeling good. Lillian tells her, stay home. It's not a problem. Stay home. So she's like, all right, bet. I'm going to stay home. I'll take care of the kids or whatever, but I won't go into the office today. Well, Mark and Dwayne, remember, I think Dwayne is Mark's brother. Both of them received calls that they needed to meet their clients at 4:00 about some used appliances to buy, because they both individually had appliance companies in different parts of Houston. So they everybody goes on their merry way, and we get to episode 5, the final episode, called The 4:00 Murders. So Mark goes to the shop to where he is supposed to meet somebody at 4:00. He's shot point blank. Eddie isn't. I think he's also. Is he his brother? He's one of the other people. Eddie,
one of the other folks, yeah,
went to go meet a client at 4:00. He's shot. And Dwayne pulls up to a client's house with his 8-year-old daughter, and they block him in, and he's shot. All of them were shot by a man in a blue suit with a beard and a hat. And they were all shot.
Take a break.
Yes. Yes.
We'll be back wrapping up Daughters of the Cult. Hit it, Claude.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
The 9 U.S. Mexican citizens killed by gunmen in northern Mexico on Monday were part of a community that's clashed with cartels in the past. They were part of the extended Lebaron family who reportedly migrated to Mexico around the turn of the 20th century.
And we're back. Yeah.
So remember the man with the blue suit, the beard, and the hat. So it's like Spider-Man. It's the Spider-Man gif. Everybody's pointing at each other. You. And this was a very intricate plan to make sure that man who was identified at all 3 shootings could not be identified. But obviously it was 3 separate people because they all happened at 4:00. So the police suspected that it's the KOG, but they had no evidence, no proof, and Ervil had been dead for 7 years. They were like, this nigga's dead, but I know he's still behind it in some kind of way. They were also afraid Lillian was a target, and Lillian is pregnant at the time. So they have a SWAT team that's protecting their house to make sure that she doesn't get killed.
Anna had to carry a gun. As a teenager, everybody was on watch. They went into witness protection. It was fucking wild.
On watch from their own siblings.
Yeah, and the prosecution had a time, trying to figure out how this all came to be. Yes, they had inklings, but to get it to grand jury, to get it to trial, they had an uphill climb.
Yep.
Until one day. They get a call from a lady named Cynthia. Cynthia LeBaron, who happened to be involved in the plot to kill these folks.
Yep.
And she was like, listen, I'll let you know some shit, but I gotta be granted immunity. Give me my hidden immunity idol, right?
Yep.
And Jeff was like, all right, bet. So what's T? Cynthia let everything hang, just let all the titties hang. She was like, well, listen, we were about to kill these 3 people,
Mhm.
Aaron and us, but, I couldn't because, I have a little bit of a moral compass and they don't respect women. So this is what they get, neener, neener, neener. And she provided them everything, details, notes, anything that is circumstantial, not circumstantial, like concrete evidence against Aaron and Heber.
But the reason this was so important is because they had arrested Heber, Richard, and Doug, right? They had arrested them, and how they got them was they were in Arizona, and they was getting rowdy at a motel. Some Arizona people was like, there's some rowdy niggas in a hotel. Get them together. Police show up, okay? And when the police showed up and arrested them, they find all these stolen vehicles. It's cool. So they arrested them on stolen vehicle charges. But as they are searching these vehicles, that's when they find wigs, disguises, maps of Houston, directions to the places in which Mark, Eddie, and Dwayne were killed. They find all of that. But the problem is they were not able to tie each individual to each murder. And with US law, you have to be able to say this person did this here. And they just know the 3 of them did the killing. They just didn't know who did what killing. So that's why Cynthia was so important, because Cynthia was she was a surveillance for them. So she's the one, she was, like you said, she was in the meeting. She knew what was going on. So she was able to let them know. And she called them from Mexico, went across the border to go meet them, the police. And she's the one who was able to say, such and such did this killing. Heber did this killing. Richard did this killing. And Doug did this killing. So that is they were able to take those auto theft charges, because originally they only got 10 years each. And then the youngest one, Doug, because he was a minor, got 3.5 years. But now they were able to up their charges to murder, life in prison, and Richard and Heber both got life in prison. Doug still only got 5 years off a plea deal because he was a minor.
All right. So just when we think everything is all well and good,
because Heber got convicted.
Yeah. Folks were feeling froggy and feeling convicted of the spirit of themselves, internally, which allowed them to spawn a nuke on their own people.
Yep.
And so about 20 women and children were shot in Mexico.
Yes. So Cynthia tells the police the whole plan, right? She's the one who let them know that the 4 o'clock murders were being planned for 2 years. Heber's the one who killed Dan Jordan in the woods. Remember, Heber wasn't there with everybody. Heber was in the woods waiting. So Heber's the one who killed Dan Jordan. Cynthia was taken into witness protection. They prosecuted all the others, but Aaron was still on the run. So in 92, Anna gets married. Mark is gone. Lillian shot herself because she couldn't go on without him. They got life. Aaron was wanted by the FBI, and in 85, he was taken into custody because he was director of an English school. It's crazy. Can you imagine, like, a director of your school ends up getting arrested and you find out this nigga is behind like multiple murders? So he's the director of an English school, sentenced to 45 years in prison. So this is a 30-year crime span. But then in 2019, this is what you were talking about. So there's a place called Colonia LeBaron. Okay, obviously named for the family. And this is all the people who were once upon a time a part of the community. And so in 2019, Colonia LeBaron, there's 3 mothers, there's 6 kids, and they were all crossing the border, and they were ambushed and shot up. And so they thought, because the LeBaron name was attached to it, that it had something to do with that. And it was like, oh no, how? But it's because the cartel was actually the ones who ended up killing, but it was still curse of the LeBaron murders because the name was still involved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at the end of the doc, they all sit around and watch Prophet of Evil, the television movie about their daddy.
And they laugh. And they roast.
Laugh and have a good time.
They sit up and talk about, those houses they had us living in was too nice. They was too nice. Then we find out where a couple of them are. One of them, the one who was conceived in the jail in Mexico, she's a nurse and she's a gardener now. She always wanted to be a nurse. Hiram, who's the only son who was interviewed throughout this whole thing, is an army sergeant and an atheist. I'm less concerned about the atheism and more about the army sergeant.
Yeah.
You leave one cult to another.
I said the same thing.
Anna is an authoress. She has written a book called The Polygamous Daughter. And Celia's in finance. There's over 7,000 LeBarons and LeBaron descendants across 5 generations still alive. And they're all across America. They're one of the largest families in America. And
it's like white Genghis Khan.
Yeah, or anybody with the last name Washington. And I like how at the end they were like, there's over 7,000 LeBaron descendants across 5 generations, and all of them disavow Ervil's teachings. I was like, good, because it's dangerous. So you got to put down any of them who might have an inkling. Because these niggas are special.
Bigly.
So special. They're so special, so special, so special. Woo, that was a lot.
Yeah, friends. Woo. Anywho, well, that's the end of this episode because I got nothing else.
No.
But tonight, we'll be live tonight. On Patreon. Should have said this at the beginning. But yeah, tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're just going to have a Wang Dang Doodle with you all. So, until next time, bye.
Ta-ta.
Yes, we're moving.